Let's jump straight into this. Picture this. It's 2023, somewhere at an undisclosed location in the United States. You've got two federal agents out on a totally routine operation. It's an ordinary evening, nothing out of the usual. But then they look up. Hovering right there in the sky is this bizarre, ball-shaped object, glowing a brilliant orange. They're confused, and then it just vanishes. But the very next day, a completely different team at a different location sees the exact same glowing orange orb. Over 2 days, 3 different teams of highly trained federal officers saw this. But here's the absolute wildest detail. These officers watched this massive orange orb literally launch smaller red glowing orbs. It looked exactly like a sci-fi mothership deploying tiny fighter planes. And it didn't just happen once. It happened 5 separate times. And this really shows we aren't just talking about a one-off anomaly here. These are trained professionals who gave sworn statements to the US government. They said these red orbs would shoot forward, dart straight up, or suddenly plunge downwards, completely defying basic physics. And the mystery actually gets deeper. Fast forward to 2025. A senior intelligence official takes a helicopter out to that exact same location from 2023. They spot another orb hovering just above the ground. But as the chopper gets close, the orb instantly shoots 20 miles away. It moved so incredibly fast that the helicopter couldn't even attempt to follow it. And then it too began launching smaller orbs. Now, if an ordinary person told you this story, you'd probably just call it a wild conspiracy theory. But these are federal agents. So, to address these mounting, impossible-seeming events, on May 8, 2026, the U.S. Department of War took a massive step. They declassified exactly 162 UFO files, dropping them right onto a public webpage. We're talking FBI documents, Pentagon reports, NASA transcripts, and completely unseen footage. There are 28 videos and 14 images in there of phenomena that completely challenge the very laws of inertia. What's really fascinating is that these strange encounters aren't just happening inside our atmosphere. They're actually happening out in the vacuum of space. Back in 1965, during the Gemini 7 mission, astronaut Frank Borman radioed Houston with a phrase you almost never expect to hear in space. He said, "Bogey at 10 o'clock high." In military terms, a bogey is an unidentified enemy aircraft or missile. Ground control assumed he was just looking at his spacecraft's own booster, but Borman was absolutely adamant. He could clearly see the booster separately. This was a distinct, totally unidentified object floating out there in the dark. Section 1. A curious geographical pattern. To truly understand what's going on in this explainer, we have to play detective and look closely at exactly where these objects are being seen. If you map out the most credible, physics-defying UFO sightings over the decades, a really stark pattern emerges. We see incredibly heavy activity in the western United States. We see a major 2023 incident over the ocean in Greece where an object took 90-degree turns at 80 miles per hour. In 2024, mysterious objects zipped past surveillance systems in Iraq and Syria. And over the Indo-Pacific near Japan, a bizarre football-shaped craft with strange projections was spotted. So here is the absolutely crucial point. What do the Western US, Greece, Iraq, Syria, and Japan all have in common? Well, they are all massive hubs of US military activity. It begs a somewhat funny but essential question. Why do aliens only ever seem to visit US military bases? Just like in the movies where the aliens only ever attack New York City, in the real world, these anomalies almost exclusively show up exactly where the US military has deployed its most advanced, sophisticated monitoring systems. Is that just a cosmic coincidence, or are we looking at a geopolitical map? Section 2. Cold War Secrets Revealed. To unpack this, we need to travel back to the Cold War, because that's where this entire global hysteria really began. The timeline lays it out perfectly. In June 1947, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold spotted 9 glowing objects flying at incredible speeds over Washington state. He described them as moving like a saucer skipping across water, while the media totally misinterpreted his description of their movement as their shape, and boom, the term flying saucer was born. Weeks later, in July 1947, mysterious debris turns up at a ranch in Roswell, New Mexico. The military initially claimed they captured a flying disc, sparking absolute global frenzy, before quickly retracting it and calling it a weather balloon. By 1952, unexplained objects were literally swarming the skies over Washington, D.C., and even showing up on military radar systems. The public panic was so intense by this point that the U.S. government launched Project Blue Book in 1952 to figure it out. Over 17 years, they reviewed over 12,000 cases. Most of them were just misidentified planets, stars, or conventional airplanes. but exactly 701 cases remained completely unidentified. Literally no explanation. So does that mean those 701 were extraterrestrial? Well, hold your horses. Fast forward to 1994, and the U.S. Air Force declassifies a top-secret initiative called Project Mogul. During the Cold War, the U.S. was actually flying these highly advanced classified spy balloons to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. And guess what? That infamous Roswell crash wasn't an alien spaceship at all. The weird tinfoil, the rubber strips, the unknown materials, it was all debris from a crashed Project Mogul spy balloon. Even the so-called alien bodies people claimed to see were later revealed to be literal crash test dummies from separate, highly classified high-altitude drop tests. Which brings up a fascinating point about the government's strategy here. Why didn't the US just tell the truth back in 1947? Because admitting they were actively spying on the Soviet Union could have triggered an international crisis. It was vastly more beneficial for the military to just let the public believe in little green men. The alien rumors provided the ultimate smokescreen. Under the guise of UFO sightings, the CIA and the military could test their most advanced, highly classified spy planes and space tech completely undetected. The military actively relied on the UFO myth to hide very human secrets. Section 3. Modern Espionage and Drones. Let's bring this right back to the present day. If the UFOs of the past were advanced spy planes, what on earth are we seeing now? Well, today's sightings map perfectly to modern terrestrial espionage. That football-shaped object spotted over Japan, defense experts suggest it perfectly aligns with China's high-altitude spy balloon program, very similar to the one shot down over the US in 2023. Those anomalies zipping through the skies in Iraq and Syria, they are highly likely to be advanced Iranian or Houthi surveillance drones probing U.S. defenses. And that mind-bending orange orb launching red orbs from 2023, intelligence reports actually indicate that China has actively developed a mothership drone capable of carrying and launching up to 100 smaller drones midair. We aren't looking at visitors from Alpha Centauri here. These are foreign surveillance assets getting caught by America's hyper-advanced sensor nets. But wait a second, what about the space sightings? If earthly UFOs are just drones and spy balloons, how do we explain the bizarre things our astronauts have seen while floating out in the cosmos? I mean, even Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin reported seeing strange light flashes inside their cabins and glowing sources on the moon during the Apollo missions. Well, the astronauts themselves actually provided completely grounded explanations for these phenomena. Neil Armstrong suggested that those cabin flashes were simply sunlight leaking through tiny gaps in their window covers. Other flashes are a known effect caused by high-energy atomic particles and cosmic radiation physically interacting with the spacecraft's sensors, or even hitting the retinas of the astronauts' own eyes. As for the mysterious laser-like lights on the moon, Buzz Aldrin theorized it was simply the sun's intense reflection bouncing off incredibly smooth, glass-like lakes back on Earth. Space is full of extreme, entirely natural optical illusions. Section 4. The truth behind the sightings. While a handful of cases genuinely do lack complete data, the overarching pattern is undeniably clear, and it was summarized perfectly by the U.S. Defense Department itself. In 2022, they established the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, to investigate all UFO claims dating back to 1945. In February 2024, they dropped their definitive report. Their conclusion? There is absolutely zero evidence that the U.S. government possesses extraterrestrial technology, nor are they hiding secret reverse engineering programs. They concluded that the vast majority of sightings are just ordinary objects, drones, weather balloons, satellites, or classified military tech that observers simply misidentified. And this brings up a critical issue regarding transparency. The former chief of AARO pointed out something super vital. When government agencies just dump raw, declassified UFO files, like those 162 documents we talked about, onto the internet without providing any scientific analysis or context, it is incredibly dangerous. A lack of transparency breeds conspiracy. Without proper context, these blurry infrared videos just act as rocket fuel for pseudoscience and wild internet theories, entirely distracting the public from the actual geopolitical realities. So it really all comes down to two distinct realities. On one side, we have the romantic sci-fi fantasy of extraterrestrial visitors crossing galaxies just to visit Earth. It's a fun idea, and hey, a lot of us would love to see proof of life out there. But on the other side, we have the grounded, evidence-based reality, a history of international espionage, secret drone programs, and governments using the myth of aliens to shield their most highly classified military advancements from the public eye. The map of UFO sightings isn't a map of alien tourism. It's a map of human geopolitical conflict. Which leaves us with one final profound question to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. As we look up at the night sky, searching for answers, we really have to ask ourselves, is the real mystery hiding out there in the stars? Or is the true mystery in what governments are desperately trying to hide right here on Earth? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep questioning, keep looking closer, and I'll see you next time.